This is the Mind Body Detox Podcast, where we discuss all things integrative health and wellness, interviewing folks from all over the world, sharing insights and wisdom on how to live a healthier life in mind, body, and spirit. Welcome back to the Mind Body Detox Podcast. I'm your host, Integrative Intuitive Medium, Lovehart, and I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Tanya Jarrett, and we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of hot and cold therapy, or heat therapy and cold therapy. We're going to talk about why we use this. We're going to talk about the different types of heat and cold therapy, the benefits, and then, of course, our favorite ways that we utilize heat and cold therapy, and then just the amazing benefits we've experienced in our own lives. So, Tanya, tell us a little bit about yourself if anyone has not joined the show before and learned a little bit about your background and who you are. And then let's go in and talk about the amazing heat and cold therapy.
Yes, I love it. I love heat and cold therapy. But first off, I am a nutritional therapist. What I strive to do with every client is dig deep into their biochemistry and to see where the deficiencies are and where the imbalances are. And then what I can do is I can pair that with food chemistry. So giving them a nice, beautiful whole foods approach, leading them towards optimal wellness is the goal. So that is me in a nutshell. But going to cold therapy, I want to talk a little bit about cold therapy first, because that was really my introduction.
So what exactly is it then? Like, what is cold therapy? I know that people most likely are like, I put an ice pack on my back when I have pain. Like, but what, it includes that, right? But tell us a little bit more about the other things and what exactly it is.
Yeah. So there are many different types of cold therapy. And like you said, the cold pack is one of them. You could also just take a nice ice cold shower. That is cold therapy. Ice baths, or cold plunges, as they're like now named. But you could do an ice bath, or you could even do cryotherapy. That could be full chamber cryotherapy or localized cryotherapy. So those are the different types of cold therapy that I know of. And maybe there's even more out there. But I first discovered it when I was living in Europe. My husband was a professional athlete. I watched a documentary on Wim Hof. And for those of you who are not familiar with him, he's a Dutch guy, and he's known as the Iceman. And he's also really known for his method. He has a specific method that combines cold therapy with meditation and breathing. And there's many, many, many benefits to all of those. But when you combine them together, it's even stronger. So I became really interested in cold therapy, not only from that documentary, but from listening to my husband as he suffered injuries as a professional hockey player, doing these cold baths to relieve inflammation and reduce pain.
Did he just do the cold, or did he actually put ice in the bath?
They had an ice bath. So they had a tub that they would soak in. And I mean, they would fill it with ice and fill it with water and get right in. So it really can be as simple as filling your bathtub. That would be a lot of ice, but
right. How long did he stay in the ice bath? Like what did you watch him like go through for that process? Everyone's probably like shivering thinking about this, like what? But yeah, what was his process for that?
I have to admit that I've never seen him do it, but I do believe that it is anywhere between 2 to 10 minutes, depending on how much you can handle. But I think you at least have to be in for 2 minutes to really start to experience the benefits of cold therapy. When I did whole body cryo, like a full body cryo chamber, I was in there for 2 minutes. I probably could have went a little bit more, but they always start beginners off at 2 minutes because it is cold.
What does a cryo chamber look like? I actually had a friend of mine the other day tell me about that. And I said, I have to ask Tanya about a cryo chamber. I've never even heard of that. What is that?
Yeah, so it's literally a chamber that you step into. And now when I went in, I had gloves on, I had earmuffs, I had socks, pants, a shirt. Like it was kind of like I was going outside skiing. That's what I felt like. And then I stepped into the chamber. And for those who have issues with small spaces, there is a window that comes down. And what I thought was really cool is that she was playing, I love electronic dance music. So she let me choose my music, and I put this like crazy EDM music on just because I knew it was going to be cold and that
Right.
would distract
Hype
me.
yourself up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was really fabulous. I would love to have the opportunity to experience that on a protocol, because that's when you really
Wow.
experience the most benefit, is when you're doing it as part of a protocol, not just a
Consistently.
one-off, right?
Wow. Yeah. And when you're saying that, you're talking about like being in a small space and there's like a window. All my brain like jumps to is sci-fi movies and like cryogenically freezing yourself and like getting ready to like, like I don't think that technology is actually real at all at this point. But I just think about that when you're saying that. That's so cool. I want to
Yeah.
try it. That sounds really neat. Again, if you guys out there are listening too, if you've tried any of these therapies, we'd love to hear from you too. We want to hear your experiences. And even if there's any therapies that are cold or heat therapies that we're not going to talk about today that maybe we're not aware of, please share.
Mhm.
Again, we'd love to hear from you. So with the cryo chamber, you had, your one experience there. What were your results? Like, what did you experience afterwards?
So immediately after that session, the number one thing that I experienced was energy. I
Oh, you
felt
got
like
hyped.
this adrenaline rush, you know what I mean? And I just felt really clear. I felt mental clarity and energy. And that is a huge benefit of the cold therapy, because what it does is it restricts those blood vessels and reduces blood flow. So there's, increased healing, and there's things like reducing inflammation and swelling, reducing muscle soreness. But for me, that
Mm.
one time in that 2-minute session, it was clarity. It was like energy and clarity.
Mm. Without coffee.
Yeah, without oh yeah. And I love my coffee. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are the other benefits then of cold therapy? And have you tried any other types of cold therapy?
yeah, so improved immune response, that's a big one. Better sleep.
When you're a kid though, when they say, mom and dad says, now don't go out without your shoes and socks on, you're going to get sick. It's
Yep.
so interesting as I've learned more about the cold therapy and like I hear my grandmother saying, you're going to get sick, put a coat on. I find that really interesting because I'm actually had to bring up some of this research because my son, he does not like to be in temperatures outside that are, warmer than, 45 degrees with the coat on. He's like, if it's 30 degrees or more, 35 degrees or more, I'm fine without a coat on. Like I like it. I don't, unless it's long period of time outside. So I'd love to hear more about what you think about that.
Yeah, it's funny. My daughter, the other day, I said to her, I said, now, Eva, you have to put a jacket on, right? And she said, Mom, you don't get sick from the cold, you get sick from germs. I mean,
She
I
put
know
you in your
that.
place,
She put
girl.
me in my place.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I know that, but
I
my
know, right?
whole life,
It's the
like
story
you,
we've been told.
been told that, right? Put a hat on, don't go out with your hair wet.
Right,
When
right,
in reality, it's true. You get sick from germs, you don't get sick from the cold.
right, right. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I've also done um I've also done like cold packs, of course, like
mhm,
I've rolled my ankle a few times, but I personally do cryotherapy. So I
mhm,
do a localized cryotherapy. It's called cryoskin, and this is really cool. The listeners are going to love this. I
mhm.
can actually permanently eliminate fat by targeting the subcutaneous fat layer. And what
And
that
freezing
does,
it,
yeah, you
right?
basically are cooling it to a temperature that triggers programmed cell death. And it is one of the coolest technologies out there. I think it is so fabulous that you can target that way and help people feel confident. We can also do targeted pain treatments on muscles. So
Yeah.
you don't need that cold pack. You just come and get a little cryo session right on your muscle.
Well, you can't get that type of temperature safely with just a cold pack. I think that the cryo does a little bit colder, but it does it safely without destroying the skin, right? Because
Yes.
hot, like a cold pack from your freezer isn't going to get the same amount of benefit. I mean, it still get benefit, but the same amount of targeted specific temperature as the
Yeah.
cryo skin, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So when you do a targeted cryotherapy for pain and for fat reduction, you are actually using a temperature controlled device and also a protective gel on the skin.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you just put a cold pack onto your skin, you could burn your skin.
So,
So you
so
don't
I
want.
was, to be honest, I was very skeptical about this. And I was at my friend's the other day And I've been doing the cryo skin sessions, cryo
Mhm.
slimming, which is programmed cell death. I want you to define that too in a second, and killing the fat cells and eliminating them permanently. And then also for eliminating cellulite. So I was with my friend and I got out of the hot tub the other day. I was at her house. She goes, I'm not trying to check you out or anything, but I need to see your legs. Your legs look amazing. Like, what are you doing? They're like, there's less cellulite than there was before. And I was like, well, actually, yeah. So, and I told her about how many, I lost like what, 2 inches, 3 inches already
Mhm.
with just doing the cryo slimming, which is really radical,
Yeah.
radical. And it's not invasive. So I'd love to know about that program cell death. Like, how the heck does that work? Because again, I was skeptical. And if you're out there, I always say, continue to live your life with an open heart and a curious mind. And skepticism in a healthy way is good. So let's share with anyone out there that also has that mindset about it. What the heck is actually happening there?
Yeah. So, what we're doing with this technology is we're cooling that subcutaneous fat layer down to a point between +4 Celsius and -4 Celsius. It creates that unstable environment for those cells. And
Hmm.
then what happens is the cells go into a process called apoptosis, which is
Apoptosis.
apoptosis. Some people say it a little different, kind of like potato,
Uh-huh.
but apoptosis, apoptosis, and that is programmed cell death. So what happens is when the cells are unstable, they are going to die. So those cells are permanently eliminated through the lymphatic system. Can they come back? No. But can you regain weight? Yes, your other fat cells can stretch.
Right, right. You
So
can kill those cells, but they're not coming back. They're dead, but you can definitely continue to gain weight and add new cells if you don't maintain your diet and nutrition and all that. Right.
right.
Okay.
Right. So it's such a cool process. And even with the cellulite, just the fact that you can use cold temperatures to stimulate collagen and elastin in the skin.
Yeah.
So we do something called microcirculation, where we're constantly using a technique that we're constricting and dilating blood vessels.
Yeah.
It is so wonderful, non-invasive, works beautifully, and helps people feel amazing. You can't get any
Yeah.
better than that.
No, I agree because for those of you out there, I'm not sure if you've listened to the episode. I've lost over 100 pounds. I was 260 pounds at my highest weight, and I have a lot of extra skin. And so, even with losing some of the extra belly weight around my sides and like my lower belly, I call it the kangaroo pouch from having a baby. With cryo slimming, it's been really amazing. But then the toning to like any of the extra skin that we're toning up, I don't know. I just should feel really good about it. So, I love that this is something that you've been introducing, and I'm just learning more about it. And of course, the word apoptosis. Me and Matt actually talk about that word a lot because we think it's a funny word, and
We
we
do.
love it because when we were learning about it from you at the beginning, I was like, "What?" She kept saying apoptosis. It's like I program cell death, and we're like, "This is so great." And so no, it's one of it's we just have as a joke in our house now because we love that word. We love silly words. That's just who we are. But I just think that the benefits of cold, I only thought it was, of course, like ice packs or the ice plunges or things like that. So I love to hear that, cryotherapy and cryoskin's another thing. Now, are there any other cryo type of therapies out there that are similar? And do they have harm? Is there contraindications? Is there any more benefit to the cryo skin versus other stuff?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I truly believe that there are multiple different types of cryotherapy out there. I think what's really important is that if you're embarking on a cryoskin journey, that you understand what the risks are, what the contraindications are. You want something where there's going to be no damage to your skin. And
Yeah.
there are therapies out there that may seem great, but they can cause damage. So I think it's best as a consumer to be informed and to ask the right questions so that you feel confident moving forward with any type of cryotherapy without harming yourself. You don't want to hurt yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It didn't hurt. When I got it done, it just felt nice and cold, like almost like someone had an ice pack, but it didn't get too cold. And I was just like, this is nice. And
Yeah.
then I felt like I definitely saw a difference in the measurements. And then like after that, for like 3 more days, like I felt like my skin kept looking better each day.
Yeah.
That's why I
It
was like,
does.
why is it still working? It looks
Mhm.
better. It looks more toned each day. So
Yes.
I'm guessing that was stimulating the collagen or the elastin or
Absolutely. So what happens is when we cool that skin and we create that microcirculation, you're starting the process of collagen production, which takes a full 6 weeks to synthesize. So it looks better over time.
cool.
And cryoskin, the reason why I chose cryoskin, it was important for me to have the best technology that did not harm any other surrounding tissue and that was very non-invasive, because I truly believe in my soul that everything from comes from a holistic approach.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be chemicals. It doesn't have to, you don't have to take like supplements that are, have like, chemicals or medications for weight loss. Like some of those stuff that we've, what ephedra is now not legal in the market. There's so many things that I think that have
Mhm.
been detrimental to our health that we've tried to utilize for weight loss, and even collagen and like creams that might have chemicals in them that might not be beneficial for tightening the skin and all that. So yeah, so along with cryotherapy, we have cold showers, we have the ice plunge and cold packs. Um, how about any other benefits? Like anything that does it support the metabolism, anything with mental clarity, any sleep benefits? I'm curious about that with cryo or the cold therapy in general.
Yeah, I think cold. I think if you're doing a cold plunge where you're actually
Hmm.
getting, and they do have so. If you Google cold plunge, you will see so many wonderful baths that you can purchase. They are not cheap,
Hmm.
but I think they are worth it because they come with a temperature controlled, system in them.
Oh,
So
it
you're
makes it cold, so you don't have
always
to buy ice?
You do not have to buy ice. A lot of them come with it's kind of like a little generator on the side, and it
Oh,
keeps the temperature of the water at the specific temperature that you would like.
wow.
And then you get in there and, you know, you submerge yourself in to these cold baths. It's really fantastic. I can't believe how much is out there. I really would love to have one in my house because I don't think
Yeah.
it makes much sense to fill up your bathtub with ice every time.
Yeah.
If you're really into this type of therapy, maybe investing into a cold plunge bath is the best way.
Yeah, yeah. And like just like anything, I always tell people if you're new to these things, go and go to a gym or go to somewhere that has these type of things, or get the ice and put it in your bath and follow protocols on online. We'll put some resources in the show notes for you. And if you really love it, it's benefiting you, definitely go and do it more. Cause that's what I did. I went and we're going to talk about heat therapy next, but I started doing sauna therapy and I loved it so much. I was like, how do I do this at home? And I looked into all the different types of saunas. There's definitely pop-up saunas. There's saunas you can buy for at your home that are actually relatively inexpensive. But, my investment was the crystal mat because I can create it as a sauna and it can have set many different settings to actually use it in a multi-dimensional way. So yeah. So what
Mhm.
about the immune health and sleep? How does the cold therapy affect those two things?
So for sleep, that's a good question. I know that it helps with sleep.
Because we're down regulating the nervous system, I know, with the contrast therapy, if we're going from heat to cold. So
Yeah.
the nervous system can start unwind and relax and shift into a relaxed state between the both of them. But I know when you did it, when you're just doing cold therapy, it makes you active and it gives you that energy.
Yeah.
And then of course with the immune response too, it's interesting because it's you want to get that story out of your head. I mean, I do think that there is, taking care of yourself, making sure you're getting enough sleep, eating healthy food. I feel like if all those things are lacking and you're also exposing yourself to extreme stress of some sort, even if it is cold, that's where I think it might more be truthful, of a story that you could get sick, but it's not really the cold that's getting you sick. It's a combination of factors. And like your daughter said, it's the bacteria or the viruses that are getting you sick. And if your immune response is affected by lack of sleep, diet stuff, or toxicity in the body, you drank a lot of alcohol, and you're taxing your system with all these different stressors. So that's kind of my take on that. Again, I'm not an expert on the cryo or the cold therapy. I'm more my thing is the heat therapy. I love the heat. But I do also do the contrast therapy. And we'll kind of use that as a bridge to go over to that. Because what I do is sauna therapy, and then I take a cold shower, and then I go back into the sauna. And that is amazing. But before we move into that, is there anything else you want to share about cold therapies?
Yeah. What I would say is that I too am not an expert. I am really learning about the benefits of cold therapy and utilizing them to the best of my ability. I recommend that people do some research. There is some great research in PubMed that you can look at, talking about, the cellular response of cold therapy. So if you're interested in that, it's out there for you to learn.
Yeah, we'll provide some of those links in the show notes for you guys for easy access, because I know some people love all that nerdy stuff like we do, and some people are like, just tell me why. Is it cool? All right, great. I'm going to try it now. I love it. Yeah. So let's move on to heat therapy then.
Okay.
So the different types of heat therapy or hot therapy. Well, most everyone's had a hot shower, or they've had like a nice hot bath, or they've done a hot tub or something like that. There is sauna, and then there's infrared sauna. There's also more in traditional indigenous cultures. A lot of them have sweat lodges or things like that, similar to sauna in more of a ceremonial fashion for connecting spiritually. So that is another type of hot therapy. I'm curious, Tanya, what is your experience with hot therapy, and where does that play a role, or when did that start playing a role for your health and wellness routine?
Yeah, I was introduced to heat therapy when I met you, Kara.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so infrared heat therapy.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had Finnish friends in Germany, and saunas are really big in Europe. So if you ever go to
Yeah.
Europe, there are saunas in every single gym, and it's very popular. So those are saunas that actually have the steam, and you put the water on the stones. I've done that for many, many, many years. Also, heat therapy. I suffer from some chronic neck issues, so I do kind of like heating pads. But I was not introduced to infrared heat therapy until I met you, and it has been a complete game changer for myself,
Awesome.
but for also the people I work with.
Awesome. Yeah, because the heat goes got deeper into the body, and we'll talk about that. But generally, most people have tried a hot pack
Yep.
or one of those self massagers that you plug in that also heat up, or a heating pad, a general heat, or a heated blanket. Steam rooms are also included. Again, I said saunas, infrared saunas, hot baths, showers, hot tubs, and then if you've ever done a sweat lodge or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So of my experience, of course, was a hot bath when, young. We all have hot baths when we're little. We take a warm bath or a hot bath. And that's one of my go-tos for on a regular hot bath with Epsom salts. I add in
Absolutely.
Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate for relaxing the muscles. And of course, my favorite essential oils. Like, this is one of my favorite self-care practices because it's not expensive. Most people have a bathtub in their home, and if they don't, I say, oh my gosh, find a friend that has one and ask to come over at least once a month and take a bath. One of my sisters, when she was moving to her new apartment, she was like, I need to have a place that has a bathtub, because
Mm-hmm.
that's so important and so beneficial for our nervous systems. We're high achieving women, so are you, Tanya. So we kind of have this focus and this mindset to keep going, and we need to relax a lot. So that's really supportive for us. And then you can also do something in your shower too, which I really like. They have like really nice bath bombs, things that you can put in your shower to release really nice aromatherapy smells to inhale through steam, so that you get the benefits not only of heat, but also for your lungs and your respiratory system. If you add essential oils into your bath, or even if you really have a nice soap, the shampoo you use, anything that you can benefit from in that capacity. But the heat is what really opens up the lungs, and the steam, and then the temperature on the skin. So those are very common, one of my favorite ways. And then heating pads are not actually my favorite thing. I really started to move away from heating pads when I discovered the amount of electromagnetic frequency, or EMFs, that they put into the body, and how that affects the body negatively. Especially now, 20 years ago, it wasn't as much of a thing that I think would be detrimental to your health in the long term, unless you're using it every single day. But now, yes, if you have not listened to Toxic Tech, the effects of EMFs on our health, that episode, please go back and listen to that. I'm referencing that here. But we are surrounded by so much electromagnetic frequencies, from Wi-Fi to cell phone signals to electrical outlets, and all that stuff affects the nervous system and the cellular function, our sleep, our immune system. So anywhere that we can get rid of excess electromagnetic frequencies, I'm all for it. And that's why I no longer use an electric blanket. And as an energy sensitive person, I feel it. I feel like, ugh, like there's something like is just clawing at me. I don't like the feeling of it. And some people who are sensitive also they experience that. But again, there's nothing wrong with using a heating pad. Or if you have that at home, it's not going to kill you. It's not like oh, Kara and Tanya said those are not good for you. No, they're still beneficial for you. Heat therapy in any form is beneficial for you. But I'm just a little bit radical with my wellness, right? I
Yeah.
really have learned the better I feel, the more better I want to feel and continue to feel better. And so anything that degrades that feeling of wellness, or I don't feel like really good all the time. Now, I don't mean like super on all the time and super like, yay, excited all the time. I mean like a good, peaceful, my body feels good, my mental state, my mood is balanced. That's what I mean by radical wellness. And I think it's radical because we live in a place where we're used to feeling like crap. We're used to, in our culture, feeling tired. And it's quote unquote normal for us to feel that way. And that is not normal. It should not be normal. So the way that we live, Tanya, and the way we try to find our self-care and things that we're always learning and growing, we're trying to, again, to embrace a more radical way of being well in this world. So if you're using heating pads and things that have EMF, please continue to use them if they support you. But let's talk and move into the alternative, which is infrared heating pads. So this could be something as small as, the size of a piece of paper, like that kind of 8.5 by 11. That's like a normal size of a heating pad, or a full pad that fits the king size bed. So I'm actually going to switch over to you, Tanya, and ask you about your first experience with we have infrared crystal mats, infrared heating mats at our wellness center. And I'm curious about your experience with them and the first time, because I don't remember what happened to you when you did the first session with it. And then I'll share
Yeah,
my journey with
that was
those.
that was a while ago, Kara. It was back in 2018. So that was quite some time
Wow.
ago. But I remember you put me in for an infrared crystal detox on the biomat.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful experience. I love the heat. My body thrives in the heat. It really
Yeah.
does. And that night, I had no neck pain. And as I said before, I suffer from this chronic neck pain.
Yeah.
And I know why. From working on computers. So it is something that I just can't get away from. But I remember that night that I could not feel that pain in my neck and I slept really great. It was that restorative sleep where you feel really rested in the morning. So
Yes.
that was very eye-opening to me as a first timer. And
Right.
now my goal, as you said, as you become better in wellness, you keep building and building. When you know better, you do better. So now
Yeah.
I know the true benefits of infrared therapy and the increased circulation and reduced inflammation, that I do try at least once or twice a week when I'm in the center to lay on the bed for 15 to 20 minutes.
Awesome. Now, have you tried then a regular sauna or an infrared sauna before that? Have you ever experienced those?
Absolutely. So I'm a member at Crunch Fitness, and that's, I don't know
That's
if
nationwide, I believe.
everybody knows what Crunch Fitness is, but
Yeah.
they have an infrared sauna room.
Hmm.
And I don't think many people really truly understand the benefits of it because it's always
Yeah.
open. So I do
Yeah.
use it, and I do my stretching routine in there. And I also do some meditation in there. And what's great is that you have the ability to alter the temperature. So if you do not want to really produce a sweat, you do not have to. You can keep it a little bit lower and
Right.
still reap all of the benefits.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so there are two different types of saunas, and we're going to talk about that. And then we'll talk about how the infrared crystal mat relates to that. So first off, we'll talk about the infrared crystal mats. So, in general, infrared heat is a wavelength of heat. So, it is on the infrared spectrum. So, we talk about different spectrums of light and wavelength. We can definitely, we cannot see ultraviolet light, but we cannot see infrared light. So, these wavelength, but they do affect us and they do penetrate the body. So, infrared wavelength is a lower frequency heat, and it goes deeper into the body, sometimes up to 6 inches into the body. So when you put a radiant heat next to a heating pad that radiates heat, or like a heater, like a space heater, you can go up to those things and you can put your hand near it and you can feel the heat blowing out at you, or feeling the heat coming out at you. So if you have had an infrared space heater, which are actually very economical and better on electricity, you can go up there and you can have your kids or your pets walking around it. They can touch the heater and the surface of the heater will not be hot, because what it's doing is it's sending an infrared wavelength of heat, a frequency of heat into the air, and it's vibrating the molecules in the air to heat them up, because it's speeding up how they're moving in the air to a faster pace, and that creates heat. That's why when we put water in the freezer, the reason why it freezes is the molecules of water are actually slowing down how fast they're moving, and the slower they move, the more rigid they become, which turns into an ice cube. Then when you heat them up again, you bring heat and energy, which heat is a form of energy, and it vibrates the water molecules, and then it starts to melt them, and it's just moving them fast. And of course, the other extreme of that, you put the water on a stove, turn the heat up, the water molecules start to vibrate hotter and higher and higher and higher, and then they evaporate into the air, right? They just completely evaporate. So in this particular instance, it is using that infrared wavelength to vibrate the air for that heater. But it also does the same thing to your body in an infrared sauna or with something like an infrared mat. So a mat versus a sauna, they both have infrared heating elements. Sauna is usually a wooden box that you go in and has a seat, or you sit in, you can do yoga in it. And I like that you said that you can regulate the temperature in there, which is really nice. But in the heating saunas, with the infrared saunas, in the infrared saunas, I feel like it's not always the most comfortable in there. If you like to stand up or you like to sit down, but laying on a wooden block of, a bench or something like that isn't the most comfortable all the time. But it's definitely beneficial to a lot of people going through it. If you have a gym or a wellness center or a clinic that has something like that, it's more beneficial to fit like 6 or 7 people in it. That's why they usually do it in having a box that has these infrared heaters, so more people can benefit at one time. With an infrared mat, it is still an infrared heating element, and it's usually a mat, almost like a yoga mat, but it's filled. These ones are particularly filled with crystals, like any sort of gemstone or rock, because what happens is when the rock gets heated up by the infrared wavelength, then when you go lay on it, you touch it, it is warm. So it gives you sustained heat, because you could lay on it and it could heat you up just like it would be heating up the air with an infrared heater. It vibrates the molecules in the air. It would vibrate the molecules in your body and the water molecules in you specifically. That's why they want you to drink a lot of water when you go in for an infrared sauna or an infrared crystal mat, because they want to make sure you're not dehydrated, because that's how your body gets heated up, through the water molecules in the body. So when you're laying on the crystal mat, you get the benefit of the infrared heat, but then the heat is sustained in the stones. And for people who really like the benefit of the properties of stones, they put off negatively charged ions. It's a whole nother discussion, but people really like that. There's also health benefits to that. But with the infrared saunas and the infrared mats, both, you can set the temperature to be more relaxation, or set it up to the highest setting where you can then sweat. And I think that's really beneficial for the infrared heat. Now, in general, heat therapy, whether it's a hot shower, a sauna, a hot tub, or infrared mat or infrared sauna, all of these, they really do benefit and promote healing and improving the circulation. Obviously, when you're increasing heat, you're increasing your heart rate a little bit, and it's moving the blood flow through you a little bit faster. It can thin the blood a little bit. So for someone who wants to do a natural approach, blood thinner, you don't want to do a blood thinner, and your doctor says it's okay, they actually, a lot more of cardiovascular doctors are referring people to do saunas for their heart health. It's definitely very beneficial. Now, I will go over the contraindications right now, because we're talking about heart health. There are some things that you should not, you should not do a sauna or a heat therapy for. Anything that's going to create heat in the body, specifically infrared as well. Pregnancy, obviously, right? If you're pregnant, like, you don't want to heat the body up extraneously, because that could potentially affect the baby developing, the fetus. But if someone has had heart conditions like unstable angina, or just a recent heart attack, or severe aortic stenosis, so the thinning of the aorta, where there's not a lot of room to move this excess blood flow, the circulation that's going to happen through increasing your circulation with a sauna, that can be dangerous. So I always say, if you have any of these things, and in general, always good to talk with your healthcare provider if a sauna is good for you. But predisposed predisposal to excess bleeding, or if you're on blood thinners, or if you're hemophiliac. So think about it. It's beneficial. We always say, hey, take garlic or drink. There's these things you can take to thin your blood naturally and be less likely to get a stroke or heart attack, right? If you have those predispositions, there's things that we do that are preventative that we like to say are helpful in the natural health world. But the heat therapy does also benefit that because it does thin the blood, right? Because of the circulation is speeding up everything through that. But downside is if you cut yourself and you're more predisposed to having thin blood, or you're on blood thinners, you don't want your blood to be too thin, because then you risk bleeding too much. Like, especially if you have some sort of car accident, God forbid, or something crazy, it's definitely a one that we recommend, and doctors recommend you don't do that. If you're on certain medications like diuretics, we're already going to be more dehydrated, beta blockers, and even, this is common, right, for us to take antihistamines. Some antihistamines can predispose the body to be more prone to heat stroke. So we may not be aware that we're getting overly hot, or if our body would be more likely at a normal temperature that we normally wouldn't get too hot in a sauna, that when we're on an antihistamine during the the seasonal allergy season or whatever, we could potentially have negative side effects. If you're using any substances like drugs or alcohol, like, absolutely do not do heat therapy, because your body's already extra taxed by that. Anything that has impaired sweating. So sweating is what cools the body, and that's one of the benefits to heat therapy. But if you are unable to sweat, maybe through MS, or if you have diabetes with neuropathy, not in general, the crystal mats are actually really good for neuropathy. But if you're unable to sweat in a setting where you're going to be hot, you're getting to that sauna setting on an infrared mat where it's really, really hot, and your body can't sweat and it's impaired sweating, then your body can't cool its temperature down. And that can be dangerous for the body. If you have a fever, your body's already raising its core temperature naturally from internally, not from externally. So you want to let your body really go through that process. And then if this is one of the common things, when we get hurt and we twist an ankle, or we have an injury through sports or something, we put ice on it, but some people want to put heat on it because it's painful. But your body already has inflammation in that area. So as massage therapists for sports massage, we're taught to not work on that area, to not bring any more blood flow to an area that has acute injury, meaning within less than 48 hours, 72 hours of when you've had the injury. So when you've had an injury on a joint or anything like that, getting into any sort of heat therapy is not always beneficial, because your body is already creating inflammation and sending all the beautiful healing cells and nutrients to that area to heal it. But excess inflammation can actually be detrimental sometimes. And so the other two things would be, if you're doing infrared heat only. Some people ask about metal implants. Like if you have a hip replacement, knee replacement, sometimes metal actually can heat up quicker than the body tissue, and sometimes it doesn't. So we always tell people it's good to talk to your doctor if you have any sort of surgery or implants, to see if infrared heat would be beneficial. If not, then sauna therapy itself, it doesn't have a wavelength of heat. Like we talked about the infrared heater heating up the air, the wavelength of heat in infrared mat would be heating up your tissue from, up to 6 inches into the body. And if you have an implant, it could get a little too hot. But I've had people that have crystal mats and have bought them and own them, that have implants and don't have any problems with it. They've checked with their doctors, but it depends on the implant. There's different things. How long ago did you get it made? What's it made of? I think that's really dependent on the person. And then silicone implants. People ask, I have implants, and is it going to be detrimental? Well, silicone melts at 200 degrees Celsius, so that's 2 degrees Fahrenheit. If we had our body temperature at 392 degrees Fahrenheit, we would not be alive. So, the infrared and heat therapy do not heat you up to that amount that you would have any melting of silicone or anything like that. But I always say, if you have a surgeon and you have silicone implants, it's absolutely beneficial to talk to them first before you do any sort of heat therapy. So I want to know a little bit, Tanya, about your experiences then more recently with the infrared therapy and what benefits you've experienced. I know that you said about your neck pain, your chronic neck pain. I'm really curious to hear yours, and then I'm going to share some of the cool stuff that we've experienced.
Yeah, for me personally, using infrared for pain management has been wonderful. It really has been wonderful. But I also like to use the infrared therapy for just boosting my mood. Again, just the same as the cold therapy, there are some overlapping benefits between cold therapy and hot therapy. As
Yeah.
you probably are saying, like, oh, wow, she said that was the same for cold therapy. So
Yep.
they do have some of the same benefits, but those are the two that I really utilize them for. And, just really that mood boosting and pain relief.
Perfect. And so I'm going to share a little bit of a story here and go over the final benefits of what we know for heat therapy, and then we'll wrap it up here. So the my first experience on an infrared mat was at an expo like 15 years ago now. And I laid on this mat for only 15 minutes. They put headphones on me. I laid on it and I was out. I felt like I went somewhere else. I was sleeping, but I was like, I woke up because I had a headache. Walking around, I was a little bit overwhelmed, and you're walking around a lot in an expo like that. There's a lot of things to look at. I felt refreshed. I felt like I had the most amazing power mat I've ever had. And some of the pain that I had completely gone away. And I said, how is this possible with 15 minutes on this heating pad? And I was like, well, maybe, what's the price on this? Oh my gosh, I had sticker shock because I was like, why is this so expensive? And then they were explaining to me what the benefits of it was beyond just what I had experienced. And the crystals aren't cheap. 50-pound mat that is pretty heavy. It has full of amethyst crystals or whatever's in there, jade, can be expensive. So it made sense to me. But not only does infrared therapy can potentially promote sweating and detoxification if you are doing the sauna setting, same with infrared and saunas, that's very helpful if you have excess cadmium or lead or mercury in the body. That has been shown to be able to be excreted through sweat. And I'll share some information in the show notes too for more research on that. But most importantly, heat shock proteins are the biggest thing that they're studying now. Heat shock proteins. Look up heat shock proteins and you'll find enormous amount of research on heat therapy and why heat shock proteins are always involved, because when you get heated up or your body's hot, your body starts to create it stimulates the production of molecular proteins that are heat shock proteins. And these proteins, they regulate the shape and the function of different proteins. So what that means is when anything is changed in the body, the way that something's shaped, it affects the way that it fits into another structure in the body. So if you have a puzzle piece and these two puzzle pieces fit together perfectly and you heat it up, the puzzle piece changes, it's not going to fit in there right. But there might be areas that how the body works, how proteins work, when they shift, the way that they're shaped, the way that they function and what they do is different. Thinking of that puzzle piece, if it's shifted, that puzzle piece morphs now to a different shape and now has a different function. It fits in somewhere differently. And this can actually affect the function of the cells, the tissue, and even genes in a way that's beneficial. So that can contribute to cellular homeostasis. And people are like, what's that? What is homeostasis? That's increasing your longevity. That is improving learning and memory. This is even beneficial for dementia. There's research for that. Improved sensitivity for insulin sensitivity, which Tanya knows all about that with metabolism. So your insulin sensitivity is improved. Immune system function, we talked about that. Reducing free radicals, which we don't like free radicals. They're really good for reducing those for aging. Blood pressure, circulation, we talked about that. We talked about brain health, and it improves your heart rate variability and sleep. And overall, the amount of decrease we see in overall cardiovascular disease events, fatal cardiovascular events, so events of heart attack or whatever that would cause death, they decrease significantly with heat therapy. And so if you look up heat shock proteins, and if you have cardiovascular disease in your family, I can't recommend enough for you to go and check this out, because it's something that's easy to do. It feels good. It's relaxing, and it doesn't have really any negative side effects. And you just got to make sure you stay hydrated. So I think that a lot of our clients, they use it for pain and stiffness, combating like chronic disease or chronic immune system issues. If you have Lyme disease, autoimmune of some sort, and even post-cancer, when people are done with their cancer treatments, chemotherapy is very toxic to the body. So a detoxification protocol with a doctor or a nutritional therapist and incorporating heat therapy and sweating, this can be very helpful and help people come back to normal and feel back to normal. You already mentioned mood boosting, Tanya, but we also didn't mention about recovery for athletes. We talked about that for the cold therapy, but DOMS, which is delayed onset of muscle soreness. That's what, if you're an athlete, you work out, you hear of this within a day of working out, you're really sore. So if you're thinking about going to the gym and you want to start working out more, you can decrease that soreness through infrared heat. It dramatically improves and it really increases healing quickly. And this is really good if you're a massage therapist or a healer of some sort, any sort of body worker. I love these, incorporating these in my sessions for that. But then the last thing I want to mention is just the spiritual connection. People, when they get in through these type of therapies, it can change our brain waves from this beta brainwave where we're hyper focused, we're go, go, go. And in that mode, more of the reptilian brain is online, that part of the brain that's in survival mode. And we don't have higher level thinking on at all times. Maybe we can stay focused, but we're focused in a heightened state where we're thinking about the things that we need to do for, maybe not consciously we're trying to survive, but there's this underlying feeling of maybe deadlines or a little bit of panic. That part of the body then is more working in an animalistic sense of survival. And it does shut down the part of the brain or inhibits the part of the brain that helps us with higher level thinking and problem solving and creative thinking, which is the frontal lobe. So when you relax the nervous system and change the brain waves through either of these therapies or them together, that can change. If you feel blocked and you feel you're stuck somewhere, you're not able to problem solve or get this aha moment you're looking for, or even connect to whatever you think it is that drops in that intuition, that sense. It could be God, your higher power. This is a really good way to connect and calm your mind, because we have clients over and over again that say that I cannot stop thinking. My brain does not shut up. I try to meditate all the time, but when I lay on this infrared mat or I get infrared sauna sessions, I can finally start to calm down my brain and actually clear my mind. And that's the only place where people will start to have a connection with their intuition or start to have a connection with their higher power. And I think that is more powerful than we can realize. We stay connected to a space where we feel like we have to be in charge of everything. And it can be really stressful, like we're holding the weight of the world on our shoulders. But if we can do that in tandem with what our higher power we believe it is, or our spiritual connection, we have that connection there to support us, that can change our entire life. That can decrease our stress. And if that faith and trust is there and it's foundational, it can change everything with our health, especially with that mind-body connection. Yeah. So is there anything else, Miss Tanya, you want to share about heat or cold therapy?
I just think they're all really great. You just listed all these wonderful benefits of heat therapy. And I think it goes to show us that we are cellular beings and everything happens at the cellular level and everything moves energetically and there's energy flow through everything. So when you have heat therapy, cold therapy, there are some cellular level responses that are happening. And that's what produces all of these wonderful benefits.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you guys have any other questions about heat therapy or cold therapy, let us know. We'd absolutely love to try to find the answers for you. We're going to put some stuff in the show notes, resources for you to check out. Check out our new online community. If you have not joined that, you get some absolutely amazing extra bonus material for the podcast, as well as some self-care stuff. We have the free 7-day Mind Body Detox refresh on there, Wellness Wednesdays with Tanya, Wisdom with our astrologer Pat, and Mindful Mondays with Matt. And we're going to be starting putting in our Mind Body Detox community on that platform some self-care stuff. And one of the things I do in the sauna every single day when I go in the sauna is I use cupping therapy on my muscles and my tissues. So what I'm going to be doing coming up is we're going to be talking about cupping therapy and self-care cupping at home. So that's a course and that's a project that will be up there. Again, if you're listening to this a year from now, it probably will be up on that platform, but we want to invite you to encourage you to check that out. It is a month for free for our membership, and it's only $5 after that for the online community. I think it's a really great value and a great opportunity to check out like-minded people, connect with a community who are really into radical healing and wellness for themselves in mind, body, and spirit, and to check out more information about this and maybe some of the uncut episode of this podcast today. All right. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you around, and be well until next time, my friends. Thank you you for listening to the Mind Body Detox podcast. We wish you wellness and health in your mind, body, and spirit. And be well until next time, my friends.